Now at this point we've just reached 50% health for the Lich King. I'm going to go through some of the more important tactics for the next phase. So what we normally do is at around 45% we start prepping our tank, who then goes back to the original position of pretty much phase 1, gets him close to the edge so that when the Lich King goes to the center to activate the outer ring again, we're more prepared and near the edge so that we don't have to run so far and take a lot of damage from his swirling storm. So as you can see here, the last Valkyrie is we've decided we're going to do a phase change at this point as soon as he's down. Again, we're just keeping control, slowing it down, nuking it out. Okay, so at this point Zelia is moving to the outer edge, prepping it for the phase change. There's one last defile where we're just making sure that we aren't going to go anywhere near where we're going to be standing. There we go, it's procced off, and everybody's just getting ready for the phase change. Now at this point you have to wait for the ledge to reappear, so there will be a brief point where you take some damage. As soon as it appears you move back on, and again healers take the back row, ranged DPS take the middle row, and melee and tanks take the front. Again, Raging Spirits spawn. This time there's more of them. At this point we decide that it's always best to use Heroism if you've got it, just because there's too many Raging Spirits to deal with, and it's easier to have them dead before the final phase kicks in. One tip I did forget to mention with the Raging Spirits, they have a cleave. It's never a good idea for DPS or range, or anyone for that matter, to get in front of that cleave. It's a cone effect spell which will silence you and does quite an excessive amount of damage. In other words, always tank them away from the raid, and DPS always shoot their back. As you can see here, we're just nuking down the spirits in the order the tank prefers on the fret, and the cone damage that we're taking from these dark bolts is from the Lich King. The healers just heal through it. Now we're just entering the final phase now. At this point we're just making sure the orbs are all dead before we run in. At this point you don't have to centralize, you just spread out as best as you can. The Lich King will spawn ghosts above his head. They need to be nuked down. And at this point you can see I've been chosen by Frostmourne, so I get sacrificed. It's a good idea to whack a few quick heals on the person that's being sucked inside so they have enough to survive the initial damage from being effectively killed. Inside the Frostmourne, you basically as a healer have to heal him up. As you can see now, the ghost is attacking him with a cast spell. It's interruptible, and it's definitely recommended you do interrupt it. As a healer, I recommend only healing him above 50% health. You don't really need to do more than that. Don't burn your mana. It's a good idea to also, if you've got the chance, take a break there, regenerate your mana, get enough mana up for the final phase if you're running low. All you've got to make sure is that you interrupt him, like I'm doing so here, and giving the odd few heals on the king. If you're DPS, you need to make sure that you help DPS the boss down obviously as quickly as possible for the king so that you can phase change it. As a healer it's not so important. If you're a tank, just tank the ghost for him and take the hits. Now as you can see here, I spawned directly into a defile, which was quite lethal. This is another reason why it's a good idea to make sure that if you've got defile, you don't do it in the center. Luckily we got away with no wipes there. The damage I was taking at that point was from the ghosts. To mitigate the damage you take from the ghosts, it's always a good idea to basically run as they're chasing you, so that it gives the healers more time to react to the damage that they're taking. You'll see in a second the type of damage I'm talking about. It gets quite excessive. So at this point he's a pretty much tank and spank phase. The only thing you've got to be aware of is the defiles. They still carry on. And of course our new threat, the ghosts. Now you can see they're landing at the moment. Ideally the tank, who is off tanking normally, takes as many hits as he can from them. He can soak them up, so to speak. Everyone else just basically has to DPS them down. That's the range. Melee stays on the Lich King at all times. Now you only have to get the Lich King to 10% at this point, so don't think that just because you've got 15% to go and everybody's burning out of mana that it's game over. You're all expected to just reach 10% and then he nukes everyone, and you'll see that shortly. So as you can see here, heavy ghosts were spawning. One flaw that we did do at this point was that the off tank wasn't picking enough of the ghosts up, and we did lose a Lundai. It wasn't the end of the world though, and we decided not to use a battle res on him just in case one of the tanks died. At this point, it's also recommended that the tanks switch between each other if the damage gets too excessive for one or the other to deal with. The Lich King does hit pretty hard. So as you can see here, we're just entering the final few percentage. We've only got one dead, so we're doing okay out of it. The ghosts are incoming. Take a final few more blows. We lost a melee at that point. It wasn't the end of the world. We had a battle res ready. And then it hits 10%. Now at this point, you'll get sacrificed. It's a pretty normal stage. Don't try and release, is all I can say. Normally it doesn't let you anyway, and it says the Lich King owns your soul, but the word of advice is don't release. It can bug you, and of course you won't get your much wanted achievement. At this point the roleplay kicks in, and it's just an affair of the paladin getting out of his ice block, knocking Lich King to his feet, breaking the sword, and then having a free 10% kill. So to recap, during this fight, it's always a good idea, as I said, to have a hunter, to have one paladin healer and a shaman healer. You can mix and match the disc priest with a druid priest if you wish to. With a druid healer. It's not necessary, but it can also help. People always argue the infest can be obviously mitigated through the bubbling of the shields, but it's entirely up to the choice of your raid leader at that point and whether or not he thinks it's required. All I can say